I was just watching a YouTube clip of a TD, I think from Wicklow, from the Social Democrats, asking you about the hare. And indeed, I had Pauline McLynn on asking you specifically that the hare would stop being trapped and netted at the moment because there's a disease which is affecting hares and rabbits. And the hare is an endangered species and is still captured and raced and chased by greyhounds. You look very uncomfortable in the Doyle, effectively not answering her question whether you would stop the issuing of licences, and since then kind of almost surreptitiously, because somebody texted me in just after Pauline came on to say, well, actually those licences have been given out. Were you very uncomfortable?
Yes, I was. I've met with Deputy Whitmore since. It was something I do recall answering the question. At that time, I wasn't even sure whether, under the transfer function, I would have responsibility for the licensing for the netting of hares for this season. And as it transpired, I didn't. I did issue a note on that I felt. But you've got,
sorry to cut across you, but you've responsibility for conserving this wild Irish hare, don't you?
Yes, I do. Within the heritage section, within the heritage division, we are responsible for what is a protected species, the Irish hare, and that. So the ultimate decision comes down to a senior minister in that regard, and Darragh O'Brien issued what was a very restrictive licence for netting hares for this year, which will ultimately mean about 11 meetings won't go ahead. So they are very restrictive licences. Ideally, I think there hasn't been consensus in the Dáil to date around the banning of hare coursing, and there is a bill brought forward by Deputy Paul Murphy, but there is currently no consensus. We couldn't secure a commitment on it in the programme for government, so we have to work within the system we have.
So well, it hasn't come up in the Dáil yet, so you haven't voted.
No, it hasn't. It's gone into a lottery system, and I did have concerns, and I expressed those concerns about the jumping, I would say, of the RHD2 virus from rabbits across species to hares. And we're looking at the population. We will be commissioning another population survey for next year to look at the population of Irish hares. Currently, it stands possibly. It seems to fluctuate from between around 230,000 to 300,000 animals, with some cases a very low density per square kilometre. So I am absolutely concerned, and I do think that Minister O'Brien did issue what was a very restrictive licence, but it wasn't my decision. And again, I would have met with Deputy Whitmore, who asked me those questions that day in the Dáil,